Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's Frostbyte. Thank you so much for coming today. And I have an epic interview. And a lot of times you look at me as a numismatist and you say, really, Frosty, what do you know about stacking? And it's not so much what you know about the subject as who you know and the people you surround yourself with. And so I've reached out to some people that I know. You guys know that I do a lot with Tiger Stacker. You guys know that I do a lot with some other channels. However, I've invited a very special guest, somebody I consider a gatekeeper in our community who really needs no introduction. If you don't know what that sound is, that is undoubtedly Uncle Sal. Uncle Sal, how you doing today?
Doing well, sir. How are you doing?
I'm
Yes,
doing very
thank you.
well. I appreciate you coming up.
Sure thing. It's my honor.
So I want to kind of just jump right into this as a collector, and you and I have talked before. And you're primarily a stacker, but you enjoy collecting. But as somebody who's coming over from the collecting world and is really trying to get into stacking, what common mistakes do you see people making?
I think a lot of times coming out of the collector world into the stacker world, they marry the two in such a way that they think that they can kind of buy slabbed modern bullion coins. And I think that is a huge mistake. Some of these slabbed, I'm not a big fan of modern coin grading in general, but whenever you see these slabbed coins like Eagles or what have you, unless there are exceptions to all of this, by the way, and I recognize that. And there's also hype surrounding some of this that can fade very quickly in the bullion market and collector market, and especially with modern coin collecting for modern coins. But a lot of times people think, well, hey, I'm going to be stacking Eagles. I want to send some in for grading and see if I can make some money, or I can just have a collectible that'll be worth some money down the road. Typically, that's a gamble because you don't know if you're gonna get an MS69 or an MS70, which are the two
Right.
most popular grades you're gonna find. And if you get a 69, well, basically you've just wasted for the most part your slab fees essentially. And so I think that was probably the first thing that a lot of collectors think. Well, I want to get into this, but I'm gonna still kind of hold on to that collector in me. So I'm gonna get Eagles or Maple Leafs or Britannias or whatever bullion product and get it graded. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
So I wholeheartedly agree. Where would be a couple bullion based examples that you think would be wise in, shouldn't say wise, but that you would take the risk in getting graded?
Well, I think if you want to play the market, like for instance the newest metal that came from the United States Mint, the flowing hair. Some people are sending those in if they get 70s when the market's hot. Like, oh, you did that? Okay, very good. Yeah. Then you can flip it, while the market is hot. But there's still plenty left to be sold from the mint as well. And so you have to really time that. Timing is everything with that sort of thing.
Right.
And I think that is something to consider. Also, if you happen upon, and this is very likely, and I think a much more lucrative thing to consider, a lot of local coin shops out there, they don't give two poopies. No, not they don't care one bit about some of the silver that comes into their shop, whether it be an old school Libertad, a rare Libertad. I'll give you, for instance, I went to a local coin shop and got a 20th of an ounce uh, 2014 Libertad. The lady was profusely apologizing that she has to charge me $1 and some change for it when the thing is worth a whole lot more than that, or at least it was at the time.
Right.
I still have the coin somewhere. I really didn't buy it for that, but I did look it up and it was going for a pretty penny afterwards. So you can find bargains in the what's known as the junk piles or just a regular silver bullion, products and rounds, coins, and you can find gems there. And some of those may be worth sending in for grading to especially like a 96 Eagle, that type of thing. And you just have to know what you're looking at and looking for, and then find them and then send them in for grading.
Yeah, but then again, you're still running the risk. It happens even in numismatics, where if you don't get that grade of 70, you may not be able to recoup your costs.
That's true, but if it's an older coin, and this is one caveat I will say, before sending it in there, check out the population reports on them.
Right.
If the population is low and it's a rare piece, there may not be that many in there, and it may be worth doing. Like I'll just use the 2014, and again, I haven't kept up with the market on those. I don't know what they're looking for, but a 2014 20th of an ounce silver Libertad. If I was to look that up, and there's only a few that have been sent in for grading, even if you get a 69 on it, that one may do fairly well. But if there's a whole lot that have been sent in, and there's a whole lot of 69s and maybe even a whole lot of 70s, well, probably not worth it because it's not going to really make it that much more of a pedigree or something that's more valuable. But that is something to consider. There's some potential in that kind of market for that to send them in for grading, and it really does depend on the population report, I think.
Well, I just pulled a couple of listings of that up, and Proof 69 somewhere between $575 and $700. So pretty wide swath depending upon where you look at it.
For which coin are we talking about now?
The 14 20th ounce onza.
Okay, yeah. That was the silver one, right?
Oh no, that was the gold one.
Yeah,
you talking silver?
Yeah, silver, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was looking at the gold one.
That's the type of thing, but who knows? Likely that market could have fell away too. Who knows? I don't know. But at the time when I got it, it was worth quite a bit more than the dollar and change I paid for it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you can find good deals. Now, a minute ago that I said that I did something and I sent one of the flowing hair metals, but I have to caveat that I didn't just send in a flowing hair metal. I was one of the fortunate few who actually got the privy.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So I absolutely was sending that one in.
Oh yeah, that's definitely worth doing if you got the privy for sure.
Yeah. No, I got notification back from CAC that it's done, but I'm not looking. I want to be surprised.
You got it through CAC, okay?
I did get it through CAC.
Because CAC is much more stringent on the grading, and I think that's good. If you get a 70 in a CAC, that's going to have an even more higher premium. So yeah,
that's what I was hoping for. I know one of the coins most likely that I sent in. Normally, I won't send anything that's medallic or anything bullion in to get graded. Very rarely will I even send coins in because more times than not, you can sell it for as much raw. There are exceptions, but normally, if you're talking about general coins, you can sell them raw, especially silver and gold.
That's exactly right.
But in this case, the 3 coins that I sent in was the 2021 Denver Morgan, the 100th anniversary.
Right.
Which, if that comes back at a 70, that's a pricey coin.
Yes.
The V75 2020W ASC, the very special limited, if that one comes back, Proof 70, that's a pretty pricey one. And then of course the flowing hair with privy. So I sent 3 really, really important coins off. If they all come back at 70, I've done really good. If at least 2 of them come back at 70, I'm doing really well. I'm just hoping that the privy one. But normally I won't send stuff in for grading. Even as a numismatist, I try not to make that mistake unless it's a rarity.
Yeah, and you got to be careful too with silver because you send something in for grading and it gets a nice 70, and then it milk spots, and I've seen that happen a lot of times.
Yeah.
Then you are in SOL.
Yeah, I bought it was a 2017 Cougaran. They're a very hard year, and it was slabbed 70, and I bought it, and I didn't buy it for much because it looked like a giant white blob. Yeah, so I mean, you do have to be careful with, especially if you're buying anything from the Royal Mint.
Right. Very true.
Yeah. So why don't we have problems with milk spots? Do you know what the difference with that is?
We do. We starting in 2021 after the pandemic, we started to see more milk spots on silver eagles. I've got some of them, and they spotted up, and it's in 2024. I haven't seen it quite as much. 2023 a little bit less too, but one of the reasons why they're not as profound is because of the matte finish. They have really honed down the matte finish. There were years in 2005, 2004 through about 2010 where there's a very, very heavy, thick frosting on all of the silver eagles, uncirculated silver eagles, almost to the point where it took away from the design. Was very uneven in parts, and I think they've kind of honed it down to where they can make it so that if milk spots do occur, it's not as noticeable. But I think that essentially that's one of the reasons it sort of hides it. The other reason is the United States Mint is the largest producer of bullion coins in the world on the planet. The silver eagle is unique in that way. There's no other bullion coin in the history of the world that has been produced as the American silver eagle. So I think, in a sense, they have their processes honed down as best, which isn't saying much and shouldn't say much because there's still some quality issues with the silver eagles. But essentially, their detergent and their burnishing, all of their process and handling the blanks, turning them into planchets, and the annealing and everything like that, they're able to get that detergent off before they anneal and dry the blanks or the planchets before striking.
Do you think that has anything to do with the location that we get our bullion from?
The mints, yeah, I think it very well could. We're not really supposed to know where they are. Some of them could be made in San Francisco, Denver. There's no mint marks that's tied to them. A couple of years ago, you may remember that some of the straps on the monster boxes gave you an indication of where they came from.
Right. Yeah.
And then the emergency issue, it all became a big deal. But in the end, it's marked on a slab that you buy that says it's from this mint. Well, if there's a fire or an accident and that slab gets cracked open, well, you've got nothing telling you that where that silver eagle was produced. So it's a moot point.
I think labeling's a huge gamut.
Yeah.
Well, so we got number one. So collectors getting and slabbing stuff, especially bullion. What would be one of the biggest mistakes collectors make when they're coming over to or joining the stacking world?
Well, that is understanding this misnomer. I think it's an incorrect term. Semi-numismatic. Either something's numismatic or it's not. And the term numismatic itself really implies that everything is numismatic. I've actually done a video about that. Anything that's collectible in terms of coins or medallions or exonema, all that stuff has some numismatic, and which essentially means collecting. And you can collect silver eagles.
Exactly.
If you do, a year set of all the silver eagles, well, you've got a numismatic product because you're collecting it. If you're stacking them, well, it's a stack of silver eagles, and you don't care about date or anything like that. So it's basically a point of view. But there really is no semi-numismatic. Either it's numismatic or it's not. And I like the idea of better bullion. That's where I'm going with this. Better bullion is something that people have to really have a keen understanding of what that means. Usually it's premium bullion. It means, in other words, a premium above normal coins as opposed to rounds, because we're talking about essentially coins here. But there are some better bullion products that are privately issued as well, which I also don't like the term generic. Generic to me is something that doesn't have a minter's mark on it or a name. If you see a buffalo that says Golden State Mint on it, that's not generic. That's a privately issued round from Golden State Mint.
Right. Yeah.
But better bullion or premium bullion is essentially things like the Lunar series, where you can buy those in tubes, or and they usually come encapsulated. They have a little bit of a premium finish on them. Usually they're kind of reverse proof, and they cost a little bit more because of the production and the quality that's assigned to the Perth Mint and other mints that create these things, like the Queen's Bee series. They have a little bit more of a premium to them because they're also limited mintage and high demand. And so people can stack those, and they can stack them as collectors, or they can just stack them. So it's one of those things that moves between those two worlds. I know of a guy who was in this community a long time ago, And he was all ecstatic. I got me a monster box of the 5 ounce Mount Rushmore coins. I'm going to make a killing on them. Oh boy, look at me. I'm going to make, and it didn't work out for him.
No.
But the ATB coins were one time considered, well, again, I don't like the term semi numismatic, but better bullion because the mintages are very low on them. But there wasn't much demand for them either because of the size and the makeup and how they were produced, and with by Congress mandated them to be that way, it made them very impractical to stack. But those are the kind of things. There's hype around some of this stuff that may or may not work out in the end. I've seen a lot of stuff from the Perth Mint, previous issue from Series 1, 2, or 1 and 2, and even some of the earlier 3 lunar series that are through the roof. And then another bullion dealer gets them, and they're like, well, they're selling for normal price above spot. So it's hit or miss with a lot of that stuff. And so you just have to understand that market and not get sucked in as a collector if you're trying to move in as a stacker. And that's understanding those two worlds and understanding the premiums you may pay. You may not get back on that better bullion stuff when you go to, if you have to liquidate it for one reason or another.
What are your thoughts on, now, as a collector, I have quite a few of these, so I don't say this to pick on people who like to collect these, but the collectible, there's kind of like a giant hype right now in the collectible silver realm. Really fancy, glow in the dark pieces, all these cool colorized pieces. What are your thoughts on these? Do you think they're, I mean, obviously collecting wise, there's going to be some you like, but just from an overall standpoint, do you think they're good to go, or do you think they're a bust item in the long run?
There is more selection now, or more varieties of stackable, of collectible pieces out there, that it's so hard to keep up with anything, and the premiums are crazy. I have a little deal with the Germania Mint. They send me the latest stuff that they get. I showed on my channel, but I never showcase it like this thing is going to be worth a mint because there's only this limited mintage or what have you. There's so many different varieties and styles and types. You can get coins shaped like anything these days. I saw a Barbie coin shaped like a Barbie, one shaped like a jukebox, dice. There's all kinds of different ways that things can be shaped, finishes, and all sorts of to colorize this, ennobilize that, rhodium, platinum, ruthenium. I mean, there's all kinds of, call them gimmicks, call them styles, call them smart minting technology. Everything. There's sky's the limit as the selection. It's almost oversaturated. There's so many different series of like a warrior series here, goddesses series there. It really boils down to whatever you like. You touched on it. Buy what you like what you buy. If you're a collector, do not, and I repeat, unless you are somebody who is in the know and can be able to flip things quickly, do not buy anything with the motivation of profiting. Because if you're a true collector, you just buy what you enjoy. You're going to pick up a series.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you an example of a guy who used to be in this community. His name was Silver Slacker. Okay. And a Silver Slacker was anything but a slacker, but that's the channel name he chose. And he is the hardest core stacker I've ever seen. This guy has like 17,000 ounces of silver.
Ooh.
But he started a collection of the Lunar 2 series of all the sizes in silver up to the kilo. And he got them all for the Series 2. And but he got them because he enjoyed them. He enjoyed having these things in his collection, and he just got them every year, and he pulls them out. He got these drawers, special drawers and everything that you could buy to put them in and showcase them. It was really neat. But he did not buy them to flip them. He bought them as part of his collection. He paid a higher premium for a lot of that stuff. Some of it may hold its value. Some of it may not. Probably most of it, probably not. I don't know. But I think that's the thing is people go into the mindset as a collector that you're going to buy something that you enjoy, then do that. and you have to make a decision whether or not it's
Right.
worth paying $200-300 for an ounce of silver that's shaped like a candy cane or what have you. You know what I mean?
Or
It's
like a Trump
really,
round.
or a Trump round. That's right, a Trump round. I bought that Trump round, not a
Yeah.
coin, Trump round for $112 or whatever, including shipping. And who knows what it's going to do? I really don't care if it ends up in the junk bin. I gotta, I talked about the reasons why I purchased it in the video, and it's about justifying it in my own mind because of the historic nature of the coin or the round,
Right.
Or the metal. It's not about, for me, that was not about turning a profit or about what it's going to be worth, something like that. I could care less if it's just worth spot price, down the road.
Well,
That's
I'm the
not why
same
I
way
got
with
it.
the flowing hair. I'm not selling my Privy Mark because
Right. You're going to,
number one, I wanted the metal. It's a beautiful piece. I really enjoyed it. I loved hearing the banter. Not very happy with some of the things that the mint did ahead of time, but we won't get into that. But ultimately, people are like, well, if you get one, would you sell it? And it's like the only way I'd sell it is if I got one that was signed by Ventress Gibson, because that would be a right here, right now, and then I could take that money and immediately buy what I really wanted and still
Right.
have profit. Ultimately, I would end up in the same boat that I was in. I would just have more money for it. It would be a win-win.
And that's just it. You touched on something. Buying what you really want.
Right.
I mean, because I felt the same way. If I was to get that, I would sell it immediately and buy what I really, really want. And that's really important because that, as a collector, that's your motivation. You to buy what you want. Like, for instance, I've never been a date guy as far as, I'm going to get a 1909 SVDB. To me, it's a VDB with just no S. I can get one for a whole lot cheaper and maybe better condition. I'm an eye appeal kind of guy. I'm a very visual. An S on a coin doesn't really mean two poopies to me. Sorry, I keep saying poopies.
Nah, it's okay. I know what you mean. It's all good.
But also, like a 1933 double eagle. I've seen one of those in person. There's nothing fancy about the coin. It's got bag marks on it. It's a mint state coin, but it's not really, nothing that doesn't have this kind of amazing luster. I'd rather get a nice 1925, brilliant, great luster, great eye appeal, ungraded, than a graded 1933 double eagle in terms of just, personal preference. Obviously, if somebody handed me a 1933 gold double eagle for a normal price of a regular one, I'd flip it, obviously, and buy a whole bunch of gold with it or whatever.
Right.
Stuff I really, really want. You know what I mean?
Right.
Everybody has, and that's why I like the idea that there's a lot of choices out there, because if you collect coins and you're a stacker and you want the marriage of both, there's plenty of choices out there. Plenty.
Very cool. Well, the last question that I have for you, it's going to go back into your community. It's going to go back into the pure stacker. Now, we talked about this. You touched about this here just a moment ago, and that is the purist, right? This is the hardcore stacker. You were talking about stacker slacker, 17,000 ounces. I know the world probably wants to know how many ounces Sal's got racked up, but
they can see my full stack video on my channel if they want.
I'll get that from you. Make sure it's in the description down below if anybody has that question. But as far as the purist, what would you say to the purist who frowns on the person who collects? I've heard a couple people be like, I would never buy that because it's only about weight. Do you subscribe to that theory? Are you good with that theory, or what's your thoughts on that?
I can't tell you how many times I bought a coin that like the Trump medallion for it. I could have bought 3 ounces plus of silver for that. Of course you could. I could have too. That's not why I bought it. I didn't buy it because I could have gotten 3 ounces of silver for it. There's a disconnect with some of those guys, and I'm like, well, then you buy those rounds you buy those 3 ounces. You do it. Yes, you can do that. That's not why that is I'm spending the money for this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that people have that disconnect, and there's no way to really reach out to them because in the video, I explain exactly what it is and why I paid that much for it. And there's other things that I paid a lot of money for. And by the way, there's things I paid money for that I've never gotten the money back. Very, very, very rarely do I sell. But I'll give you an example. When the Gods of Olympus, and back in 2014, there was something called the Gods of Olympus series from the Perth Mint. It was relatively groundbreaking to create a 2 ounce high relief antique coin that was really cool looking and had a great packaging and stuff like that. Paid like $150 at the time back in 2014 when silver was a whole heck of a lot cheaper. Pretty big premium on it, but I bought directly from the Perth Mint. And I actually was thinking, hey, these things will probably do well in time. Well, that was my really first lesson that no, they do not do very well in time. In fact, they skyrocketed in price because they sold out almost the same night they were released from the Perth Mint, and even the distributors they sold out fairly quickly because they had a mintage of like 1,500, and so the prices they went like up to $400 at the time for the first one, and the second one a little bit less but still very high, and the third one there was three of them in that original series before they moved to the goddesses.
Okay.
And then they took a variation of the theme and made a better bullion coin of it. Anyways, but the originals, I thought, these things, this is the original. And this is kind of a unique thing. First time ever the Perth Mint has really done this type of thing. So I held on to them for a while. Basically, not so much that I liked them, and I did like them to a point, but I was kind of hoping I could flip those, and I was going to be patient and wait. Well, I waited and waited and waited, and the prices kept going down, 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 down. So fast forward, I don't know, 7, 8 years later, I go to a coin show, and I'm like, I'm just going to unload these things, and silver price has gone up, but the guy that bought them from me, well, I lost money on them. I lost money on them in multiple ways, but I got, I think I got $100 maybe a piece for them, and that was with 2 ounces of silver. So it was really not that much. I mean, it was some premium, but I lost money on them, and
Right.
and so you have to expect that that's going to happen, and that's why you do it for the joy of collecting, because you really like something. Now, some of the older numismatics, I mean, and that's that stuff is well more established than the modern stuff, and you've covered many topics on your channel about that. But the modern stuff, much riskier. So you have to go with the mindset of, hey, I'm going to lose on this. Is it worth paying this extra money to have something cool in your stack or in your collection? Because really, it's in your collection, and I do separate those out to extent. But there are some of those things that have that kind of marry in both of the worlds there.
Right. Well, the one thing I'm really glad to hear you say, and like I said, you and I have talked. You were actually the very first person that I interviewed when I first started about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Thank you. It was an honor.
And so asking some questions and kind of getting a feel for where you at and watching, 2 years of your channel and watching how things go and being able to go in any topic I want to look at, go to the Sal page, click on the little question mark and type in my question. A video comes up. And I still have yet to find anything that doesn't pop up because you've covered about everything.
Yeah, I got over 7.4 thousand videos.
Yeah.
Likely, if you go in that search and what he's talking about, what Frostbyte's talking about, if you go to the channel page of any channel, you can go to the channel page and scroll to the right, and you will see a little search icon.
I'll display that right here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can search for anything. In fact, I have sometimes in a live stream, I'll say, people, let's think of a search term, as crazy as it may be, like tampon or something like that. Let's see what pops up. And you might be surprised at what may or may not pop up. But usually, if it's anything that you have a question about, if I've done a video about it, I have. And so, yeah, you can just search for it there.
Well, what I was saying is I really appreciate you, one, the knowledge that you have, but coming through with one point. And this is something that people need to understand when they're first getting into coin collecting. Pretty, shiny, nice. Yeah. But if you're stacking, or if you're going to try to stack numismatically, I guess I shouldn't say that, collect numismatics, for investment, you better really stick with the rarities because that's about the only place where you're likely to reserve that investment that you make.
There is some truth to that, but I will say too, especially in the modern sense, rarity does not equate to value either. And I'm going to give an example of that when I reach 100,000 subscribers. I'm going to show people something that no one else has ever seen. In fact, I can safely say that not even my closest friends have seen the pieces I'm going to show then that have a population of one.
Oh, cool.
But it is something that is very rare, but no one knows it even exists. And there are some things that can be so rare that there's no market for it because people don't know it even exists. But even as such, a very pretty piece that could be very rare still may not be worth a whole lot if there's not much demand for it. And that's really sometimes hard for people to grasp, especially in the collector world. But in the world of numismatics, especially for some of these older coins, they have a track record of history behind them.
Yep.
But however, some of the modern stuff, you can have a population of 10. Doesn't mean a hill of beans if people don't know it's there and they don't know, it's the value of it's going to be like, could be next to nothing. You can really get something. Well, it's got a rarity of 10. It's got to be worth something. But no, not necessarily.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
In the end, it's about demand. It's about demand rules it all. I did a video called the trifecta of collecting or trifecta of value, and I talk about the three things that equate whether a coin is going to be worth something. And it's been literally more than a decade since I made that video, but it's about I guess rarity, demand, and I forget what the third one is, but demand rules all, and maybe price, maybe issue price or something like that, or what have you. But yeah.
Well, very cool words of wisdom for certain. I can't thank you enough for coming up and hanging out with me. Anything else you would like to say before we wrap this up? Anything you'd like to ask or do?
Well, I will just say this because this really does kind of weigh in on what we're talking about here. That video, I just searched it up. It's called Numismatic Trifecta. 3 criteria to determine coin values. It may be worth checking that video out because it's really pertinent to this topic if people want to learn more about it. So that's the video, Numismatic Trifecta. And that one will kind of give you an idea of what's going on. Maybe I need to watch it again sometime too. But yeah.
I'll make sure it's down in the description below.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for having me on, Frostbyte. This has been amazing, and I appreciate the discussion.
Oh, I always appreciate you being here. And it's important to go through the hobby and make sure you're trying to identify those things that you like. So, all right, buddy. Well, I'll let you get out of here so you can go do what?
Explore.
All right, bud. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody. My name's Frostbyte. Appreciate for joining me today. And I will see you in the streams. Take care.